relationships to be authentic, and I wanted the story to feel real, and everybody, we all kind of agreed that that was...
It all began like a perfectly written love story, the kind that sweeps audiences into a dream, and, ironically, it ended the same way, with a final twist no one saw coming. Sam Heughan, the striking Scottish actor whose face seemed sculpted straight out of a romance novel, and Dakota Johnson, the enigmatic muse of American cinema known for her poise and emotional depth, shared a connection that existed somewhere between secrecy and subtle revelation. They never confirmed their relationship, never paraded it before cameras, and yet, through fleeting glances at events, overlapping journeys across continents, and moments too intimate to be coincidental, the world became convinced they were in love. Deeply, quietly, passionately. For a while, they lived inside a private world built on whispered affection and unspoken understanding. And then, without warning, it all vanished. There was no public statement, no heartbroken social media post, no final photograph capturing their last embrace. Only silence, the kind of silence that speaks louder than any confession. Suddenly, at red carpet events where their eyes once sought each other instinctively, they became strangers divided by an invisible wall of cold restraint. The media, ever hungry for answers, began to speculate. What had gone wrong between Hollywood's most secretive couple? For nearly 2 years, the question lingered unanswered, until finally, a familiar name resurfaced like an echo from the past: Amy Shiels. Amy Shiels, the Irish actress once rumored to be romantically linked to Sam back in 2018, had almost been forgotten. She was known for her role in Twin Peaks and a handful of modest action films, talented but never quite a headline name. Yet, for a brief moment, her name had burned through gossip columns as Sam's possible love interest. The rumors faded as quickly as they came, dismissed as harmless speculation once Sam's chemistry with Dakota Johnson began to captivate Hollywood insiders and fans alike. Then, in the winter of 2023, Amy appeared once again, this time in Iceland, where Sam was filming a long-term project. She wasn't listed among the cast or crew, yet a source later revealed that Sam himself had arranged for her to be present behind the scenes. At first, we thought she was just an old friend, a crew member recalled. But then, something felt different. That difference would soon become the crack that split everything apart. Around the same time, Dakota was planning to fly to Iceland to visit Sam during his shoot. The trip had been quietly arranged a month earlier, until suddenly, she canceled it. The reason, as one of her close friends later confided, was a message. A single, simple text from an unknown number. "I still have the bracelet you gave me. Here I come." The sender, Amy. The mention of a bracelet struck a chord deeper than any accusation could. Years before, in 2018, Sam had been photographed wearing a dark brown leather bracelet on several occasions, an accessory that had quietly disappeared from his wrist after he began seeing Dakota. The text reopened a door that was meant to have been sealed shut. Then came the photo, sent by a mutual acquaintance working on the film, showing Sam and Amy standing side by side, close enough to suggest familiarity far beyond friendship. Dakota, ever composed even in heartbreak, didn't ask, didn't confront. She simply closed her phone, canceled her ticket, and returned to Los Angeles. There were no tears in public, no whispered drama, only a quiet retreat, dignified yet devastating. 3 weeks later, Sam arrived in Los Angeles unannounced. He found Dakota at a small cafe in Silver Lake, the same one where they had shared countless quiet moments the previous autumn. She was sitting alone, mint tea in hand, the same order as always, but her gaze was distant, guarded. Sam approached her, trying to bridge the silence that now stretched between them. "There's nothing going on between Amy and me," he said softly. "She just stopped by. We're old friends." Dakota looked at him, her expression unreadable. "Old friends don't say things like 'I still have the bracelet you gave me,'" she replied, her voice steady, her heart already too tired to break again. Sam had no answer. The truth hung between them. Fragile, painful, undeniable. Finally, Dakota spoke again, quietly, almost to herself. "I'm not angry, Sam. I'm just tired. I can't keep loving someone when there's always a shadow, a third person waiting in the corners of your world. I can't live wondering if someone, somewhere, is still holding on to a piece of you. She rose from her seat, leaving behind a folded letter on the table. Sam didn't open it then. When he finally did, later that night, it contained only a few simple lines. Thank you for loving me. You loved me deeply, but briefly. Their story could have ended there. A quiet, dignified closure between two people who once shared something beautiful. But Hollywood rarely lets love stories die in peace. Within days, whispers began to circulate. Reporters caught wind of Amy's visit to Iceland. Social media lit up with speculation, hashtags, and headlines hinting at betrayal and heartbreak. Photos resurfaced. Old rumors were reignited. Amy Shiels' name once again became linked to Sam Heughan's, not as an innocent acquaintance this time, but as the alleged reason behind the quiet demise of one of Hollywood's most private romances. Those who had followed Sam and Dakota's understated love story were left stunned, questioning what was real and what had been carefully concealed behind the glamour of red carpets and scripted smiles. Friends close to both actors insist there was no grand betrayal, merely a slow unraveling of trust, a misstep at the wrong moment. Others, however, believe that Amy's reappearance was more than coincidence, suggesting that old emotions never truly disappear. They simply lie dormant, waiting for the right season to return. What makes the story even more haunting is its poetic symmetry. The same kind of bittersweet ending both Sam and Dakota had portrayed countless times on screen, now playing out in their real lives. Those who saw them together say they were magnetic, a blend of Scottish fire and American grace, passion laced with restraint. But even the most beautiful love stories sometimes crumble, not because of betrayal or absence, but because one heart grows weary while the other lingers too long in the past. Today, Dakota Johnson has moved forward, her focus firmly on her craft and her quiet, grounded life away from the Hollywood noise. Sam Heughan, ever the romantic soul, continues to charm audiences on screen, though those close to him say he has grown more private, more guarded. As for Amy Shiels, she has maintained her silence. No interviews, no denials, no explanations. Perhaps she knows that in stories like these, the truth often matters less than the perception. The audience will always write their own ending. And so, like any film that leaves its viewers both enchanted and heartbroken, the tale of Sam Heughan and Dakota Johnson fades not with anger or scandal, but with a wistful silence, the kind that lingers long after the final scene has ended, leaving behind only one thought.
We put some stuff in this fence so that he wouldn't go into your yard anymore.
Well, he's welcome in our yard. I'll tell you what, the kids would be more than happy to...
When Amy Shiels re-entered Sam Heughan's life, it was not through grand gestures or deliberate pursuit, but as though the past itself had quietly decided to return without invitation. Sam and Amy had once been connected, ex-lovers, if the whispers from years before were to be believed, and her sudden presence again stirred the embers of a romance the world thought long extinguished. Dakota Johnson, meanwhile, had been living in a fragile but tender rhythm with Sam, their relationship defined by discretion and depth rather than spectacle. Yet all that serenity fractured one cold Icelandic winter, when Dakota discovered something she was never meant to see, a secret that unraveled her trust, her faith, and the delicate love she had guarded so fiercely. The revelation, it was said, involved Amy, who had appeared on the film set where Sam was working, unannounced, unlisted, and yet somehow perfectly placed. Dakota's quiet departure afterwards, a one-way ticket back to Los Angeles, spoke volumes that no statement ever could. She left without anger, without confrontation, carrying with her only silence, the kind that settles when words no longer matter. For 3 long weeks after the story broke, Amy Shiels remained completely silent. Her absence from the public eye only intensified the speculation, as journalists and fans dissected every rumor, every photograph, every cryptic caption. Then, in what seemed to be a spontaneous moment, she gave a brief interview to an Irish magazine. When asked point-blank whether she was involved in the breakup between Sam and Dakota, she offered a faint, knowing smile and replied, "I'm not important enough to break up a true love. If they broke up, the problem probably started before I appeared again." That single statement set off an explosion of controversy. It was as if her soft-spoken words carried a hidden sting. Some saw her as unapologetic, even manipulative, a woman subtly excusing her role in the emotional collapse of two people still healing from old wounds. Others viewed her remark as painfully honest, a reminder that relationships rarely end because of one moment or one person, but because something unseen has been slowly decaying beneath the surface long before the fall. Public opinion, however, is never gentle. Social media divided like a battlefield. One side condemned Amy as an interloper, a third person who had carelessly stepped into a story that wasn't hers, even if her only act had been to send a single message about an old bracelet. The other side shifted the blame to Sam, accusing him of never fully severing ties with his past, of keeping the door open just enough for confusion to walk back in. The most emotional reactions came from Dakota's devoted fans, who had always seen her as the embodiment of quiet strength and authenticity. Outraged on her behalf, they launched the viral hashtag #RespectDakota, urging people to stop prying into her private life and to honor her dignified silence. One comment that spread rapidly across X, formerly Twitter, summed up the sentiment perfectly. Amy may be the fire, but Sam brought the dry wood, and his silence is what burned Dakota down. The line resonated deeply, capturing not only the heartbreak of one woman, but the complex guilt of a man torn between loyalty and lingering nostalgia. In the weeks that followed, the frenzy began to fade, as the relentless machinery of entertainment media moved on to newer scandals and fresher stories. Yet for those involved, Dakota, Sam, and Amy, the echoes of that winter lingered. Dakota Johnson, always introspective and self-contained, disappeared almost entirely from public view. Withdrew from a major Netflix production she had been preparing for nearly 6 months, a film that was meant to mark a new chapter in her career. Instead, she quietly accepted a modest independent project by an unknown female director, a film with a small £150,000 budget titled The Ghost Seat. The story followed a woman who always left an empty chair beside her at dinner parties, a quiet ritual to honor someone who was no longer there. Critics and audiences instantly drew parallels, convinced that the ghost seat symbolized Sam, the absence that Dakota couldn't ignore. When asked in a rare interview why she chose such a melancholic script, she simply smiled faintly and said, "I learned that sometimes people don't leave with their feet, but with their hearts." Her words were simple, but they carried the weight of someone who had understood loss without bitterness. Meanwhile, Sam Heughan continued to work. He attended press conferences, smiled through interviews, and threw himself into his roles with renewed intensity, as though acting might save him from what real life had taken away. His career was at a pivotal point, a transition from television to cinema, with his first major role in an American action film generating considerable buzz. On the surface, he seemed steady, charming as ever, yet in quieter moments, his vulnerability showed. During one behind-the-scenes interview, when asked about his greatest fear, he sighed before replying, "The fear of losing something you can't get back. The fear of waking up one day and realizing the person you need isn't waiting for you anymore." He didn't name anyone, but he didn't need to. Everyone knew who he meant. His words hung in the air, gentle yet haunting, like a confession disguised as philosophy. As for Amy, after that single interview, she vanished once more into the background of the industry. She neither defended herself further nor offered apologies. Some said she had done what she came to do, knowingly or not, and now preferred to disappear rather than fan the flames. Others claimed she had become the unwilling symbol of something much larger, the inevitability of human imperfection. In the end, it was no longer about her or even about the so-called love triangle that tabloids eagerly painted. It was about timing, silence, and the quiet collapse of a connection that had once seemed untouchable. Looking back, it's clear that there was never a single truth in this story, only fragments, perspectives shaped by pain, pride, and perspective. One journalist later wrote, "Sometimes the truth isn't one story. It's 100 shards from the same broken mirror, each reflecting the same light, but never the same image." Perhaps that's what made the saga of Sam Heughan and Dakota Johnson so unforgettable. It wasn't the drama, nor the speculation, but the quiet way it unfolded, beginning in secrecy, ending in silence. Their love, once whispered about in corners of red carpets and caught in the lingering gaze of stolen photographs, dissolved without scandal, without closure. Today, fans still speak of them in hushed nostalgia. Two stars who met at the wrong time, who loved sincerely but not lastingly. Sam, the romantic Scotsman who feared loss more than loneliness, and Dakota, the American poet of heartbreak who turned her sorrow into art. As for Amy, she remains the ghostly figure in their story, the woman whose mere presence reignited a flame that should have stayed cold. Maybe she was the spark that revealed what was already crumbling. Maybe she was simply the reminder that love, however deep, cannot survive unspoken doubts. And so, the tale concludes not with an argument, nor with closure, but with a kind of melancholy grace, the realization that not all stories are meant to have endings. Theirs was a love that began like a secret and ended like a whisper, a chapter written in invisible ink on the fragile pages of modern Hollywood. Sam Heughan, the charming Scottish actor, and Dakota Johnson, the graceful muse of American cinema. Their love story was never loud, but it was real. They never declared it, yet every glance, every shared moment, told 1,000 stories. Then, without warning, it was over. No statement, no final photo, just silence. For months, the world wondered what went wrong, until a name from the past reappeared. Amy Shiels. Amy, an Irish actress once linked to Sam years ago, suddenly turned up in Iceland, where he was filming. She wasn't part of the cast, but somehow, she was there. A message followed. "I still have the bracelet you gave me. Here I come." Dakota found it. She didn't ask, didn't argue. She simply canceled her flight, packed her things, and quietly left. 3 weeks later, Amy finally spoke. When asked if she caused the breakup, she smiled faintly and said, "I'm not important enough to break a true love. If they broke up, the problem started before I appeared again." Her words ignited a storm. Some called her the third person in a perfect love. Others blamed Sam, saying he never truly let go of his past. Fans of Dakota, heartbroken and loyal, launched the hashtag Respect Dakota, urging everyone to leave her in peace. One viral comment said it best, "Amy may be the fire, but Sam brought the dry wood, and his silence burned Dakota down." After the breakup, Dakota disappeared for a while. She left a major Netflix project and chose a quiet indie film, The Ghost Seat, about a woman who leaves an empty chair